Let's talk about a team that is currently playing very well in the Toronto Raptors.
So the question we have about the Toronto Raptors, same question we have with every team we're talking about today is this a thing? Is this real? Are the Raptors, who are currently a top 6 defense, which is like
Mm-hmm.
something that a lot of people predicted they would be one of the better defenses this year. But are they going to stay a top 5 offense? Because right now they're currently 4th in offensive rating, which I think is something nobody was forecasting, specifically with how much the Raptors struggled on half-court offense last year and have still continued to struggle at this year. That hasn't gone away. So, but somehow they're still 4th.
Yeah, that's true. Their offense has been lights out to start the year. They're only 6-4, which is, a bit of a strange record for a team that's top 6 in both offense and defense, and they're 4th in the NBA net rating. So how are they only 6-4? I mean, they've lost a couple of really close games to the Nets and then the Mavericks the other night. So part of that is just like the margin of losses is not big, and the margin of wins, it surpasses it by quite a bit. So that's how you have a net rating like that, but not the best record. But one thing that's been kind of really surprising to start the Raptors season is when we were talking about them in our preview, we mentioned some concerns with the shooting. I mean, they definitely have a couple of good shooters on the roster. Fred VanVleet obviously has been an excellent shooter for a long time. OG Anunoby has really stepped up his game space on the floor the past couple of years, but we had some concerns in the half court just when it came to space in the floor, but that has not been their issue at all. Chris Boucher has really been awesome to start the year.
Boucher.
OG's shooting over 40%. Scotty Barnes is shooting 40% from three. Fred VanVleet's in the high 30s. Like everyone's just lights out from three to start the year.
Yeah, Barnes is the most surprising one, and I think that's something to still monitor. Like, I hope that he's like I think he definitely has improved his 3-point shot, but 39% on 4 attempts seems like a leap that I was not expecting. I don't even I don't even think this team is like I don't even think this team is necessarily at their like I don't think they're shooting way over their heads, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like when you look at the percentages, like Van Vliet 38%, he can shoot 38% on a season.
Yeah,
Pascal
he does
Siakam's
that.
shooting 34%. That's like he can shoot
That's
better
pretty
than
much
that.
what
Yeah.
yeah.
OG Anunoby at 40% is like as a little, that would be a career high for him, but it's like he shot 37% in his career and has hit 39% in seasons several times. That's like it's not some weird outlier. Gary Trent is below his career average. Precious Achua has started the season out ice cold after being a really strong shooter in the season. Boucher, like you said, is lights out right now, but he's missed half their games.
Yep.
And Otto Porter just came back, who was supposed to be one of their main shooters off the bench. So like I don't think I think this team is very capable of shooting above league average from 3, just considering that if Scotty Barnes isn't a garbage shooter, then that means basically everyone in their rotation. Kind of what we said about the Bucks a little bit, like they might not have too many like crazy lights out shooters, but everyone on the team can shoot threes, with the exception of
Oh, especially with the
the rookie big
size they
man.
have, because like
They're
I, I've
huge. They're so
I've
big this
always
year.
I've always thought the more important thing about floor spacing, it's not to necessarily have like one or two elite guys, although the Warriors have kind of made that work the past couple of years, having a couple of elite shooters and a couple of non-shooters on the floor. So, I mean, that's one way to do it. But another way to do it is just have everyone on the floor be like okay at shooting and at least drag their defender out of the paint and towards the 3-point line. Because when the floor
Yeah.
is open and everyone in the roster is 6'8", any small player out there can just get like pushed and shoved and bullied into the basket. And, the Raptors are doing that right now. Like the floor is just like wide open. And Pascal is absolutely feasting as a result. He is back to I think definitely being all-star form. He's averaging 25 a game, and he kind of like started out the season just completely on fire, just torching the Nets. I mean, everyone torches the Nets, but
Yeah.
him
he's
especially. But yeah,
he's
he's averaging a
injured right
career
now.
high right now. Yeah.
Yeah. He's out, indefinitely, but I don't think that's supposed to be a super long-term injury, but he looks amazing. Like
Mhm.
I feel Pascal Siakam has been a top 10 player in the NBA so far this season. This injury is going to sort of, drag him down, whatever rankings projects are out there. But like, not only is he just torching guys from his favorite spots, like he loves to get in the middle of the floor and just sort of like destroy matchups. He's all of a sudden he's like putting so much pressure on the rim and getting to the line. Like he's forcing people to foul him. He's collapsing defenses. He's not even shooting the ball well. Like it's not, but he's made some little adjustments that I've noticed watching him so much last year. Like he puts a little bit more arc on his shot. So a lot
Mhm.
of these kind of tough, like he loves to get into the middle of the floor and then go into a sort of a semi post up where he can kind of make reads to both corners and then sort of attack his matchup. And last year, when things, wouldn't go great, he would kind of settle for this little fadeaway and, still get a good look, like it wasn't like a terrible thing when a Raptors possession ended up in a Pascal Siakam fadeaway. But this year, he just has a little bit more arc on that shot. And that just means
Yeah.
that he's ending those possessions with makes instead of like, back rims or front rims a lot more often than ever before. He's also playing way better on defense than he played last year. Like he's super aggressive at the point of attack. He's like his rotations are crisp. He's just playing with like an insane amount of energy and endurance. Like you just see it in every aspect of the game. And something I'd say about Siakam last year and something I feel more comfortable saying about it this year is like Pascal Siakam is maybe the most versatile player in the NBA. When you look at the different aspects, when you consider his passing, his rebounding, his backline defense, his frontline defense, his ISO scoring, and his ability to be even just sort of an average outside shooter, and now one that gets to the rim at like a near sort of superstar level. He's getting to the rim seven, almost 8 times a game. Like
Yeah.
I just like I can't think of now that LeBron's a little bit older and I like, who else is like really in that discussion of this guy that just does. I'm not saying he's the best player in the NBA, but just in terms of like versatility, if we try to group all these things together and think of, versatility as an NBA skill, I think Pascal Siakam would just sort of like have the highest all around scores.
Yeah, I mean, I think the defensive versatility definitely puts him over Luca. Yeah, this is the first season, at least according to Basketball Reference, where Pascal Siakam's playing the full-time five. I mean, he kind of was doing that last year too, but he definitely looks more comfortable doing that this year, just being like a really aggressive, like blow up the pick and roll guy and
Yeah.
like not a drop big at all, which is great
Yeah.
because a lot of centers, you know, drop is one way to play defense as a center, and the non-mobile fives definitely have to do that. But it just makes things so much easier, especially if you don't have like a super elite point of attack guard, although the Raptors do. But it makes it a lot easier on your guards defensively when you have a guy like Siakam who can get through screens and has the athleticism to like come back and defend the rim too.
I heard someone say this the other day, and I really like this take. It's the Raptors and Masai's vision of the Raptors is not an all wing lineup as we've all like to describe it. It's an all small ball center lineup.
Yeah.
And like Pascal Siakam is a small ball center. Scotty Barnes is a small ball center. Chris Boucher and Precious Achua and Otto Porter and Thaddeus Young and Ochi Anunoby. Yeah, they're all small ball centers on like, they each have different levels of versatility of what other positions they can play. But any of those guys I mentioned on another team where that was the need, they would be this like, punchy small ball center that unlocked all
Yeah.
kinds of interesting lineups. And the Raptors just have like 7 or 8 of those guys. And it's like, and they can play 5 of them at once. Fred VanVleet missed a couple of games. Their response was not to unearth Malachi Flynn or Delano Banton and play their guards more. They just played Siakam and Barnes more at point guard and just played these giant lineups. And now that they got this Coloco kid who's like a legit, very good backline defender, even if he doesn't do a whole lot of anything else yet so far in his career. Like they can they can play a real five and four small ball centers and still have it work out. And that's the reason that they're right now like killing it on both ends of the floor.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't expect a five center lineup to be awesome on the offensive side of the floor, but when your center is Pascal Siakam, who's just as effective with the ball in his hands, making plays for others and creating space for his own jump shot as he is, playing a 5-man role, then I guess you can make it work. But yeah, the
Yeah.
Raptors' dream is kind of, we'll make a concession. We'll play a short guy if he's Fred VanVleet,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
or Gary
Gary
Trent. But
Gary Trent is their
it,
other short guy, and he's like 6'6" or
yeah,
something. So
but
with like
no,
he's
no
like
one
or six
else.
five with long arms.
Yeah, it's like they have like one of those amusement park like little measurement sticks. You must be instead of this, you must be this tall to ride. You must be this tall to play for everyone else.
Unless your name is Fred VanVleet.
Yeah.
They played one game without Siakam. So I think there was a bit of a concern that the offense might fall apart without him. But they put up a 121 offensive rating on the Chicago Bulls. Admittedly, a poor defense, so I think this still needs to be tested. But definitely watch that game looking for, okay, who's gonna pick up the slack, and it wasn't really that complicated. It's like, oh, Fred VanVleet's going to go back to doing what he did last year. He's going to take a whole bunch of crazy pull-up threes. Scotty Barnes sort of filled in this Siakam role of trying to generate some rim pressure and attacking. Scotty Barnes has changed into more of a guard this year. Like last year, he was kind of a sort of like mid-post attacker who would kind of come out on the perimeter and pass a little bit.
Yeah.
This year, he's mostly just driving the ball a bunch and taking open threes pretty confidently.
Which is
And
what he
then,
did at Florida State in college. I mean, he was a
yeah,
power forward / point guard,
yeah,
when he was at Florida State. And a lot of the time he would just have the ball at the top of the key, make decisions, attack the rim. I mean, he couldn't shoot back then. He can now, but like
yeah,
he was either a point guard or a big man. There's
yeah.
kind of no in between with him.
And last year he toggled a little bit more big man, and this year he's toggling a lot more guard, at least so far. He's hitting threes, but similar to all his footage at Florida State, like he still has no pull up game. Like he does not have the mechanics to sort of dribble to his spot and smoothly pull up. Like whenever he does that, he kind of has to take this 2-footed jump stop to get into it, and it's a little bit awkward looking, and it's just not something that he's really doing. So he still has this pretty significant hole in his game, especially when we were talking about Scotty Barnes as future all NBA kind of level player. I think that hole is something to notice. He's having a great season. He's passing the ball better than he did as a rookie season, and we already discussed his shooting, but there's still barriers that would prevent him from having this total superstar package where he can just sort of demolish a defense off the dribble.
Yeah, just being that kind of like electric scorer is the final step to ascending to superstar status, because everyone wants their star to be a guy that you can give the ball to and he can get you a bucket at the end of the game. They kind of have that already. I mean, Siakam can do the pull-up thing inside the arc. VanVleet can do it outside of the arc. So they already have that dimension to their offense. But we'll see if Scotty Barnes can develop that, whether it's this season, whether it's what over the course of the next couple of off seasons. That would be kind of like the final step to unlocking his, all NBA potential.
Yeah. One last thought I have about the Raptors is that we mentioned OG's shooting, but on the defensive side of the ball, OG Anunoby has gone from a kind of switchable 5-positional matchup defender, like the guy who he's a primary defender on the best player, and he can do a pretty good job on point guards and centers, and every other position he's absolutely elite at. This year he's really unlocked a lot more as like a disruptive help defender. Like he had he grabbed like 5 or 6 steals in like 3 or 4 straight games, and he's a lot more proactive. Like you see like a more like sneaky element to him, where like you're watching the ball and OG's in the corner, and then but if you wind it back, you see OG sort of sneak into the middle of the floor and start charting the passer and then just pick passes off for dunks. And that's like a big part of his offense right now is just like getting a ton of transition dunks and layups. Because and I think that's like something, if the Raptors keep being a top 5 defense and OG Anunoby, who's already on everyone's short list of sort of best man defenders, if he becomes this like monster help defender, he should be on the short list for defensive player of the year.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, he's leading the league in steals right now, 3.1 a game, ahead of DeJounte Murray in second place.
Hey, your
Who's always
man.
up there at the top of the league in steals. But
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of an insane number. We'll see if that lasts
Yeah.
the whole season.
I mean, he's not going to keep getting 6 steals a game. They're also going to be a little bit more careful around him.
But if he even averages like 2.2 steals a game, that's elite. That's really disruptive in the passing
Yeah.
lanes.
I think it's encouraging that the Raptors are doing so well on offense this early. It would be so shocking to me if they stayed anywhere near the top 5 in offense. I just think like some of these other teams are going to figure it out and go on tears at different points, and the Raptors will have a cold shooting stretch at some point. And also part of the reason that they're top 5 right now is just that they blew out San Antonio. Like they dropped 143 points on them or something. They also put 140 on Atlanta. Those are two. I mean, I don't really know what to say about San Antonio's defense yet, so I'm not going to call them a weak. Atlanta's a weak defense. San Antonio's 29th in the league. We're going to call them a weak defense, so that could also be because they got blown out. But putting up huge numbers against 2 weak defenses in the NBA is the main reason they're top 5. But I think the idea that the Raptors could be in the top 10 this year or like fight to stick around that number, I think changes them from fun playoff team to like dark horse contender of just a team that can actually, if their offense isn't as sort of like vulnerable and streaky as it was last year, there's a team that is going to pose a ton of matchup problems for the other team in the playoffs, and is going to be a team that doesn't have matchup problems of their own. Like you're not like, it's going to take a really specific player to mess up the Raptors. Like it's going to take someone like Joel Embiid or Nikola Jokic or someone who can, just punish them on the inside, but they're not going to struggle against wings and guards consistently. Like there's not going to be a player that's a big problem for them because they've got 9 defenders to throw at your dangerous wing scorer.
Yeah, the Raptors are scary this year. I mean, I think we both have a lot of confidence their defense will hold up, and we'll see how the offense manages to stay afloat without Siakam for hopefully not an extended period of time. But yeah, if they can maintain their rate with him in the lineup, that they are a scary team.